Larry. First of all, I want to veer off somewhere because everybody and we will join this crowd, but everybody talks about what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on in the Asia Pacific. But I was told a few days ago that when Israel bombed Syria, they and they killed a high Iranian military official that they sent information through back channels that they did not mean for them to like take out the Iranian officials because they didn't know that the Iranian official was in that spot when they bombed because they feared escalation. Do you know anything about that?
I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, it sounds plausible because what's happening to Israel now in the Middle East is it's becoming increasingly isolated, more so than at any time, probably in the last 70 years or 75 years since it came into existence. The reason for that is the United States' efforts to go after Iran, to isolate Iran, have completely fallen apart. And that part of that effort was the war in Syria, the civil war that the United States and the British helped create and fund and arm and sustain, and then also the war in Yemen. Both of those now are coming to an end. In fact, the pictures are out today of the Saudi foreign minister meeting with Bashar Assad in Damascus. In the past, 10 years ago, it was the Saudis who were funding the Islamic extremists that were attacking the government of Bashar Assad. So this really is a fundamental change, and the same with what's going on in Yemen. So when you look at it, because in Yemen with the Saudis and the Iranians reestablishing relationships, they both now work to disengage and stop that war. Well, the CIA was helping fund that as well. So the Israelis are not stupid, and they're looking around, recognizing, the neighborhood's changing, and we can't count on the United States to back us, to defend us. So we better look for some ways to learn how to get along with people. Is the simplest answer.
Well, with that said, what is the third part of Syria going to look like in the coming months to years with the detente between Iran and Saudi Arabia, Syria being brought back into the Arab League, and nations are now opening up embassies against the U.S.'s wishes, I might add, and also on the back end of that, what are those areas in Yemen that the British, the U.S., and the Israelis occupy? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, well, starting off in Yemen, excuse me, U.S. influence there is going to become virtually nil. There's nothing that the United States really needs, and frankly, there's nothing that the Yemenis want from us. So I see the United States, being disengaged from that region, that particular country. Up in Syria, it does get a little bit more complex. So you've got Russia and China working from two separate ends. Russia is working with the Turks to get the Turks and the Syrians reconciled. Because I'm sure you recall, when the civil war started in Syria, it was both the Gulf Arabs and Turkey that were playing a major role in funding the Arabs and working or the Islamic extremist groups and working to overthrow Bashar Assad. So, in fact, if you remember the whole Benghazi affair, 3 days before the attack in Benghazi, David Petraeus, who was then CIA director, showed up at a meeting in Istanbul or in Ankara with the government of Turkey. And basically, he was carrying a message that because of the upcoming election and Barack Obama's political concerns, the United States was going to hold back, draw down, take a lower profile with respect to weapons deliveries. And then that same message was delivered a few days later by Ambassador Chris Stevens in Benghazi at the consulate. So, Turkey's been up to its eyeballs in this thing for well over 11 years. Now that that's coming to an end, when you get Turkey reconciling with Syria, sitting down, because part of the reason I think Turkey got involved with this, they had their eyes on Syrian territory that they wanted to occupy and take, and then that hasn't turned out too well. The big losers in this are the Kurds. The Kurds have always been trying to find, they get no respect from anybody. They've carved out sort of a little area up in their, I guess, the northeast portion of Syria. But it remains to be seen, what's going to happen to them. That's the one sort of factor in this whole dynamic that hasn't been settled or dealt with yet.